Everyone was able to buy. Everyone was able to, to get a loan.
And then there was all those like infomercials and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
And flip your house.
Flip the house. Yeah.
And it was a good time for it, like in the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
And even for like the early 2000s, but then it started. But it didn't really get too bad until like this last year or so.
Yeah, I would say the last. I mean, you really saw signs of it starting to go south. I think in spring to summer of '06, there started to be signs of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the lending continued.
Yeah.
The risk aversion that the banks had and the mortgage companies had, they didn't care about risk. They would just sell it off to investors and be done with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lending really started to tighten up in the late '07, early '08. And occasionally you get calls from the sign outside.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, I mean, you still gotta have the sign just to make people aware that even if it's just for when they come to the showing, it's like, oh, okay, that's the house.
Okay.
But you also want to put your name on there because it's free advertising for you.
Mm-hmm.
I put my cell phone on the sign just because I want to try and control as much of the transaction as possible. As far as if a potential buyer is calling into my office, if my office number is the only one on the sign, well, they're not going to send them to me. They're going to send them to whoever's working in the office that day. Typically, a lot of the listings that I take are at 5% commission. You're actually starting to see that go up in Chicago to 6% because of how difficult it is to sell a house now, and how much more work that you have to do. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I have a listing that I took in April, and I sold it 2 times, and the financing fell through both times. So I just finally sold it a 3rd time last week, and I think a lot of people don't realize that we don't get paid any money until the transaction actually closes. You
don't get that like cashier's check until you're at the
absolutely not
title company.
Right, and there's no benefits to it. You don't get a 401k, you don't get any health insurance. You're on your own.
I've been seeing like a lot of the newer people, the people that have been doing it on the side, kind of fading away, and you've got the
you see a lot of veterans actually throwing in the towel too. I mean, there's a guy in my office who was doing, $10 to $12 million in sales a year for the last 3 years. He just took a full-time job because he can't make it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you guys still have to pay your mortgages.
Yeah, we got, mortgages, kids, everything. It's I think the public in general has a funny perception about a realtor, and all you do is just sign them up, put it on the MLS, and take your check at the closing. There's quite a bit more that goes into it than that. You
have to go through those contracts that are like this.
I mean, writing contracts, dealing with inspectors, dealing with appraisers, dealing with lawyers, marketing.
Yeah.
Taking people around to look, understanding what they need, what they want, dealing with their concerns, making them understand that maybe they're going to have to, compromise on some things if they want to stay in a certain area, or, there's a lot of things that go into it that, the majority of the public, I would say, doesn't really, I wouldn't say understand, but just doesn't really know, because, it's like anything. It's, until you're actually doing somebody's job and walking in somebody's shoes, you can't possibly understand what, they do on a daily basis. Start going a little further west and get out to the further suburbs like Algonquin, Cary, Huntley. You're starting to see some seriously distressed markets, just because, the subdivisions built out there were based on cheap energy prices. Yeah. And being able to fill your tank up for $25, Well, now that $25 has turned into $75, and there's a lot of supply out there. A lot of supply, a lot of housing supply on the market, and prices just keep going down because there's too much supply. If you're working with a lot of buyers, you don't have as much overhead because you don't have to do marketing, which is probably my largest expense. Aside from, the fee that your broker charges you for, your E&O insurance and just office fee, you know,
Okay.
which is, I think this year was $750. The MLS for the entire year, it's fluctuated the last couple of years. It's been between 1,000 and 1,200.
Okay. Is it going up or is it going down or?
It's actually it's gone up the last couple of years, and I think it's going to continue to go up. My managing broker was telling me that CAR had something like Chicago Association of Realtors.
Mm-hmm.
We call it CAR just because that's the
Makes
acronym.
sense.
Yeah. They had something like 150,000 members last year, so through 07. And the renewal period is November 1st, so
Yeah.
they were expecting a drop-off of about 35,000 members.
Wow.
Just because of how slow it is. Chicago Association of Realtors, CAR, comes out every year with, like, you know, the top 100 agents or whatever in volume as far as number of transactions, and a separate list for dollar volume, number of, you know, dollars. And the last couple of years, the people that have been consistently in the top 10-15% are people that are doing foreclosure listings and REO listings from banks, you know, because they have this plethora of property that they need to get rid of.
They're selling 10 cents on a dollar.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, and once those foreclosures and REO properties, bank-owned properties, become a higher percentage of the actual supply, those start to become the market.